This is an opinion piece, not something we normally do on the Fully Charged show, but I think we are living in exceptional circumstances because we're all trapped in a politically toxic fossil fuel-based economy. Some of us, still a minority around the world, but some of us can see that this really is a problem. The vast majority of the world's population, I think, would just like some food, clean water, and maybe reliable electricity. Oh, and no war. That would be good. There are some people who are intelligent and well-informed and privileged, but who still insist that the fact that their car can travel 500 miles on one tank of imported toxic fossil fuel is more important than any other consideration. And I think that is a bit sad. Over the last 12 years, I have very slowly tried to wean myself off as much fossil fuel use as possible, while living in a complex, interconnected fossil fuel-based global economy. Basically, it's very hard. It's impossible. And this is because I'm in a position to try these technologies in my latter years with the long-term intention of showing that it is possible to live in a modern, efficient way without relying on burning liquid fuels. And why is this struggle important? Well, anyone with an ounce of common sense can see that we are all, everyone from the richest to the poorest, everywhere on the planet, dependent on fossil fuel. We understand that there are many very clear reasons why we need to stop doing this. One of the most obvious is because the habit is having a very negative effect on our environment. But one that has been highlighted recently, and an aspect of fossil fuels I've long been droning on about, is particularly unpleasant. I'm going to read out a list of countries now that all have one thing in common. Algeria, Cameroon, Chad, Ecuador, Indonesia, Iran, Kazakhstan, Libya, Mexico, Nigeria, Oman, Qatar, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates and Venezuela. Now, I'm sure many of you will have guessed these countries are all Petro-States. A Petro-State is a nation where the vast majority of national wealth and income is derived exclusively from the extraction and export of fossil fuel. When a country has a massive income from selling fossil fuel, the government don't need to raise tax from the general population. So the government has nothing to lose and everything to gain from destroying any resemblance of democracy or political freedom. In the vast majority of the countries I listed, there is deeply embedded corruption, endless political instability, and widespread brutal poverty for the vast majority of the population. These are well documented and repeatedly proven observations. There are hundreds of books and academic papers written about the socio-political and environmental damage the global oil industry has brought to countries. Here's a quote from one book called The Oil Curse: How Petroleum Wealth Shapes the Development of Nations, by a man called Michael Ross. This is the quote: "Countries that are rich in petroleum have less democracy, less economic stability, and more frequent civil wars than countries without oil." That's pretty obvious. And the people who steal all this oil money, because that is always what happens, they don't develop new forms of agriculture or life-saving pharmaceuticals or set up orphanages or fund companies developing renewables or sustainable technology. No, they don't do that. And to focus our attention on some really dirty scumbags in the news recently, what do scummy Russian oligarchs spend their stolen money on? Big posh houses in London, ridiculous luxury cars, highly paid bodyguards we've trained at taxpayers' expense for them to use, football teams, private jets, and massive super yachts moored in Monaco. How sad is that? What a funny list of things that you have to spend your billions on. Of course, this has been highlighted recently by the truly vile atrocities carried out by the Putin regime in Ukraine. And we give him money every day. I'm talking the whole world, lots of money. Yes, I know the UK claims that only a small percentage of our gas and oil comes from Russia, but we still send the Putin regime about £16 billion a year. £16 billion. It is incalculable how much the EU has been chucking at Putin to swell the coffers of the billionaires who support him. And this isn't new. It's been going on for decades. So there are two responses to the calamity that is befalling us. We can double down on developing new systems of energy generation. We can adopt technologies that are more efficient, install many billions of pounds worth of renewables, money that will be spent in this country, creating jobs in this country and income and wealth in this country. We can insulate our homes so that they can be heated with less waste. We can convert our ground transport to electric power. We can generate our own electricity without sending trillions of pounds out of our economy. Or we can do what our current Prime Minister did and go to another brutal, narcissistic and medieval regime and beg them to supply us with more oil and gas. He rushed off to Saudi Arabia just after they publicly beheaded 81 people. Slightly awkward timing, and despite the utterly horrendous human rights record of this despicable regime, the rest of the world sent over $202 billion to Saudi Arabia back in 2019, the most recent figures we have. And that's to pay for oil and gas. And as if that wasn't enough, numerous Western politicians are suggesting we start fracking in the UK, including a man I won't name because he doesn't deserve the attention, who has stated on numerous occasions that Putin is a world leader he most admires. I'm not making this up. So, we should obviously ignore these pro-fossil shills and get on a wartime footing, not to start a war, but to invest in a massive refit of our housing stock, our transport network, our energy generation, to achieve 100% renewable power in the shortest time possible. We can do it. We have to stop buying dirty fuel from dirty regimes, which just perpetuates dirty politics, dodgy deals, utterly compromised leaders, and incredibly uncreative super yacht owning tossers.